Hi guys, welcome to my tracking effects skills presentation. For the last week, I looked at single point, 2-point and 4-point tracking. My current skill level, I believe at the beginning of the week was a 2, looking at my skills audit form, and at the end of this presentation, I will let you guys know what I believe my current skill level is now. So my aims and objectives for the week were to understand the uses of single point tracking, etc. and comprehend their uses, as well as illustrating my success by showing finalised footage and edited timelines. I also wanted to have an effective plan of action for the following week, which I'll show you guys at the end, and reflectively analyse my final skill level and any thoughts and feelings I had about the skill overall. So in terms of how I spent my 20 hours during this week, I split it up into 5 key sections. So at first I have organisation and research. I did some kind of like pre-research before filming the footage because I wanted to know what sort of footage I need to capture to be able to express and show you guys the tracking footage effectively. I didn't want to just record any old footage. I then went on to a bit of practical in my back garden, recording 3 separate videos. I then did some tutorials and independent learning along with timeline editing, and then I had a reflection period at the end, just going through in my head what went well, what didn't go well, and also just kind of thinking about what my current skill level would be now. So in terms of key research, I looked at books, I looked at a couple of YouTube videos, and I also looked at a 3-hour Linda tutorial by Erin Stern, which I highly recommend. On one hand, I found the book to be considered a bit more accurate, considering it was a 2020 release. It was a bit more careful and a bit more objective as compared to the videos. I found that the videos were a bit too specific to a certain situation, whereas the book was a lot more generalised. It allowed me to comprehend different track components and pointer icons, allowing me to seamlessly move and identify different regions. So I would constantly come back to this little image here that was within the book, allowing me to understand where the search region was, where the feature region was, and also where the attach point was as well. So when I came to edit practically, I felt comfortable and I wasn't out of my depth. The book gave great hints and tips as well about the analysation of the tracking and the best way to position the anchor as well. So in terms of the pre-production stage, I wanted to do each footage accordingly to represent each tracking shot. So here you can see single point tracking, which takes into account the X and Y axes, so left, right, up and down. Then you've got 2-point tracking, which takes into account the X and Y axes, but also scale and rotation. And then you've got 4-point tracking, which lets you track onto like a mobile phone or a TV screen. So I did some footage of a TV screen here. Then I wanted to do 2-point tracking, tracking some text onto the fence. And then here's a panning shot in my back garden where I can try and show you guys how to do single point tracking. So in terms of post-production for single point tracking, I did a quick time lapse of me going in between a Linda tutorial and the Adobe After Effects timeline. Here you can see I'm using up the tracking panel on the far right hand side, moving the attach point as well and the track points, and just basically tracking motion and using the analyze button to analyze the footage data and to track certain points as well here. So for an example, I managed to track the word purple onto a purple flag. And as you can see, I had a few issues with the keyframing, so what I didn't realise that you could do was you could actually zoom in on the footage and be able to see the keyframing in much more depth. And what I did, as you can see, there's a bit of problems here, so I just grabbed each point and just smoothened it out a bit just to make the footage a lot more smoother. Moving on to the post-production process of 2-point tracking, it taught me how to create a null layer and how to put the tracking data onto the null layer after created in the tracker panel. It then taught me how to use a composition layer, so to create text, and also using the parent pick whip, which is this one here, to be able to tell the text how to be tracked onto the fence, basically. So for 2-point tracking, I had to also tick scale in the tracker panel. For single point tracking, it was only just position. And by ticking this extra box here, it will come up with an extra track point. So you just track the fence there. And this is what I came up with at first. As you can see, there's a few issues on the far right where the rotation isn't right. So for this, I ticked rotation and it came up much smoother. For the post-production process of 4-point tracking, I had a lot of problems with this. I followed the Linda tutorials and even watched the YouTube video previously mentioned. It said I should use a plugin called Mocha AE, which is already on Adobe After Effects. But when I came to actually use it, I would move all the tracking points. But when coming to track the footage, it would go absolutely crazy, as you can see here. So if anyone has any solutions for this, I'd greatly appreciate it, because the tracking layer just kept terminating prematurely. It may be to do with the saturation around the actual tracking. I did a little bit of research looking into the options, And it may be because of my hand and the plant. They may be too dark, and it's a very dark kind of footage, so that might have been the reason why. So next week, I'd like to look into 3D camera tracking a bit more, and this will allow me to revisit any problems that I had with 1 point, 2 point, or 4 point tracking, because they are kind of very similar. So I believe this is a great one to do next week. And I would say my current skill level for the tracking this week is gone from a 2 to a 5.